Hey guys, welcome back to Think Beautiful, the channel where I discuss the debacle that is Meghan Markle. And wow, this Vanity Fair article has just come out and they absolutely rip into Meghan and Harry. It is the funniest thing. I haven't read this full article. I want to read it through with you guys. So let's have a look at this. But this is sensational, I have to say. Okay, we start off inside Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's big business ambitions 5 years after their royal exit. Ensconced in their cozy Montecito mansion, the Sussexes are living the American dream. By all accounts, the love is real. But their foray into moguldom has not always been a smooth ride. By Anna Peel, who is an editor over at Vanity Fair. So let's have a look at this. The house proved it. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex could have it all. Their Montecito home offered all the fresh promises of a 21st century California mansion and the cloistering of a gated neighborhood from which they could emerge on their own terms. In the house's 13 fireplaces, described as mostly centuries old examples brought over from France, there was even some European history stripped of any potentially uncomfortable context. At 14.65 million for more than 18,000 square feet, half the current median price per square foot in Montecito. Oh, it was a bargain, was it? Rockbridge was a steal. The Ogliarch's owner's romantic relationship had deteriorated to the point, oh, so it's got bad vibes, it's got bad romance vibes in the house, had deteriorated to the point where he was compelled to offload far below market value, according to a source with knowledge, and the property seemed just right for the Duke and Duchess, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. It was the perfect launchpad for Archwell, their non-profit and entertainment studio, an approximation of a part noblesse oblige, part aspiring independently wealthy mogul model, one that Elizabeth, Charles, and William rejected by fiat during the January 2020 Sandringham Summit. This January marks 5 years since that failed parley. Leaving the royal family has brought tests for the couple: legal, financial, reputational, all their own fault, personal and practical. That's a lot of issues. Going from divinely chosen, or at least chosen by someone else who was divinely chosen, members of a 1200-year-old institution to startup founders in exile is a tough adjustment. Oh my goodness, in exile. I love it. But there has been opportunity. Over many months, Vanity Fair spoke with dozens of people, oh, they've done their research, who have worked with and lived alongside the couple, to understand the impact they've had on their new coastal California community because they're not part of the community. The challenges of enacting the ambitions of two first time CEOs and how their experience with the monarchy foreshadowed some of their current difficulties. Harry and Meghan declined to be interviewed for this article. Of course they did, because it's all true. Harry still works closely with the charities he founded, the Invictus Games Foundation and Centrabale, an organization focused on mental fitness and the impact of poverty and HIV/AIDS in southern African countries. He has real gravitas when he speaks about his work in Africa, says someone inside the couple circle. Who is this person? And he is free from Willie, yeah, he calls him Willie, as well as the future king's supposed dominion over that continent, as Harry confessed in his 2023 memoir, Spare. Africa was his thing, Harry said. Archwell also encompasses Meghan's efforts to empower and educate young women, like the 40 by 40 initiative. Oh, what a disaster. Where for her 40th birthday, she asked 40 well known friends Did she ask 40 people? Such as Melissa McCarthy and then First Lady of Canada, Sophie Gregoire Trudeau, who then said she wasn't that good friends with her, to each spend 40 minutes on Zoom mentoring a woman returning to the workplace in the wake of the pandemic. On March 14 of last year, the fourth anniversary of their flight to California, Meghan rejoined Instagram, oh God, to announce American Riviera Orchard, a home goods and sundries line. Oh, that makes it sound so crap. The Sussexes have announced Meghan's second podcast, though not the title or premise of it. Yeah, because it's not coming, you guys. Archwell Productions also recently produced two high-profile Netflix series, a docu-series called Polo. Yeah, that went great, which premiered December 10 and features the world of Harry's buddy Nacho Figueres and the reality show reality show what with Love Megan. That's not a reality show. What are you talking about? The latter is a hospitality endeavor that, according to the Netflix promotional language, which means the crap they spun about it, reimagines the genre of lifestyle programming. Oh my lord. Blending practical how to's and candid conversation with friends, new and old. Now, they're all new, by the way. Just don't have any old friends. 3 days before her show's scheduled premiere date of January 15, Meghan pulled the pin, announced that the series would be pushed to March 4 as we focus on the needs of those impacted by the wildfires in my home state, me, home state of California. The couple has been volunteering. I won't go into that. Amid the crisis in Los Angeles and donating to people displaced by the fires, getting in the way, as well as taking in friends who are these friends who had to evacuate their own homes. I mean, anyone would bring in their own friends. How stupid. They have this naivety and their hopefulness about what's possible in terms of storytelling, okay, vagueness maybe, and good works and all those things, says producer Jane Marie, who collaborated with the couple while they developed audio projects at Archwell and later produced a podcast with Michelle Obama. I wish I had that kind of optimism. Oh, see, I think that's just a really, really vanilla comment that it, you can look at it in both ways. It can be good or bad. I mean, she's using the word optimism, but okay. Optimism abounded as the couple embarked on their Spotify deal in 2020, both for them and for those who were coming in to help do the work. I thought that I had the role of a lifetime. I thought, says a person who worked in media projects, who was a fan going in. Oh, I love this. I love people that thought they were great and saw the real side, and they were eager to make the type of life changing content Harry and Meghan seemed to want to create. I thought I was going to be besties with Meghan and Harry, and we were going to like run around the world saving people. Who is this person? Interest in the couple was unslakable, but it remained to be seen whether they were actually interesting because they're boring as AF. Beyond Harry's uniquely difficult upbringing, okay, and Meghan's years of defending herself from shoddy treatment and racism, okay, whether in the British press or from members of her husband's family. mm, Okay. As one former Spotify employee put it, the thing you're escaping is the reason you're compelling. Exactly. Exactly. It's why no one wants to hear anything more except the gossip. You idiots. Those stories would be meted out in different media. Breathless reports of a 20 mil Penguin Random House contract, which was spare, and $100 million partnership with Netflix for Harry and Meghan. According to a representative for Netflix, we don't disclose our financial deals with talent, but I can confirm to you on the record, that the 100 mil figure is not correct. See, that's interesting. I haven't heard that before. How did we get the 100 mil number then? I wonder who leaked that one. On the August 2022 cover of The Cut, Meghan did to promote her first and only, I like that, and only Spotify podcast, Archetypes or Swipes if you prefer. She said, I'm like so excited to talk. And it's like I'm not finding my voice. I've had my voice for a long time. Yeah, please shut up. But being able to use it. Well, because you just have a microphone in front of you doesn't mean we have to listen. When repeatedly asked by the interviewer what she wanted to say with her newly free voice, Megan demurred, I have a lot to say until I don't. Do you like that? Oh, God, that was awful. Sometimes, as they say, the silent part is still part of the song, she said, noting, I've never had threats, she said threateningly. I've never had to sign anything that restricts me from talking. I can talk about my whole experience and make a choice not to. You have been talking about it, and that is a threat. One of the people who spoke with Vanity Fair for this story says they signed a non disclosure agreement to be employed by Harry and Meghan. Of course, a person who worked closely with the couple and loves them says, I have no idea what Harry's interests are beyond polo, no clue what his inner life is like. There's nothing there. The development process was challenging, the former Spotify employee says. They had this idea to do a podcast because they knew celebrities did them, a category differentiated between celebrities who get a lot of money to begin podcasting, like Harry and Meghan, and celebrities who get large deals after proving themselves to be capable podcasters, like Smartless's Will Arnett, Sean Hayes, and Jason Bateman. The former Spotify employee says Harry and Meghan didn't do what celebrities do on podcasts, which is turn on the mic and talk, like a normal podcast. They wanted a big theme. Meghan wanted a big theme that would explain the world, but they had no ideas. Oh, I love this article. Someone who worked closely with them on audio projects disputes this version. I think they're just trying to balance this out, lamenting that because of Meghan and Harry's insistence on silence from employees and their own reticence, the public doesn't know about good projects that had to be abandoned for practical reasons. It doesn't matter, they failed. They didn't, see the light, so it's a fail. Sorry. It feels like the only story is they didn't satisfy their contract. Well, they didn't, right? It's not like work wasn't being done. Oh, shut up. Work didn't get done. We know that. As time passed, it would be nearly 2 years before the couple's deal being signed and the premiere of Archetypes. Oh my goodness, did it take 2 years to make those episodes that are terrible and I could put myself to sleep listening to them? Spotify began applying pressure to produce something, anything that people might listen to. Oh my God, I didn't know it was 2 years. People involved with production say the couple did trial runs on some big ideas like This American Lifestyle show, where Harry and Meghan took turns hosting and talking to interesting civilian guests, plebs, basically. As Bloomberg reported, Harry wanted to do a series where he interviewed powerful men with complicated stories like Mark Zuckerberg, as if Mark would sit down with this douchebag, Vladimir Putin. Okay, Harry, that's a great idea. And Donald Trump. Yes, sit down with Donald Trump. I dare you. The concept wasn't just that the men shared challenging early lives. Okay. It was that their experiences made them into sociopaths. Okay, so you're going to get them on a podcast and call them sociopaths? It's not going to air. That's just called litigation, you idiot. Or so Harry envisioned. One person familiar with the ideation process says the person who worked in media confirms there was a sociopath podcast. Oh my gosh, imagine walking into that fire. The person who worked closely with the couple on audio projects recalls Harry saying, I have very bad childhood trauma, Obviously. Okay. Obviously. My mother was essentially murdered. Oh, I don't know how I feel about that sentence. She didn't wear a seatbelt. What is it about me that didn't make me one of these bad guys? Oh, this guy's an idiot. just let him just let him interview Donald Trump. Just let him sit down next to him. To implore a season's worth of world famous sociopaths to talk about how they developed sociopathy would be what is referred to in assessed journalism as a booking challenge. Of course, I don't know what else to say about that. That is ridiculous. As time passed, it would be nearly 2 years. These guys are slow. Between the couple's deal signing and the premiere of Archetypes, Are Swipes. Oh, I already did this one. I'm sorry. I've made a mistake there. Oh, no, this is it. Sorry. No, that's fine. The former Spotify. Here we go. The former Spotify employee says Harry came to the Los Angeles office once and asked for a cup of cocoa. Okay. There was none in the office, so employees scrambled to obtain some. An idea was pitched to Harry, but what if he reviewed a hot chocolate oh god, reviewed a hot chocolate every week while chatting with a different friend? What a stupid idea, which he and his team considered and rejected. Yeah, because it's stupid. Another, that's when you've got no ideas. What about donuts? He could do something about donuts, reviewing donuts at different shops or something. Another concept was that Harry would fix something every week. Oh, this is an idea I had for Netflix, where he just does random everyday stuff. Oh, wow. Ranging from a flat tire to global warming. He wanted to do a podcast about disabled people who compete in the Invictus Games. Well, that's just Invictus Games, the former Spotify employee says. But there's no crossover between the audience who would listen to that and people who want to hear about Harry's life. Well, it's Invictus, though. Anyway, it didn't happen. Harry and Meghan did produce a 2023 Netflix docuseries called Heart of Invictus, which significantly underperformed Harry and Meghan. Yeah, because it's not about gossip. We just wanted to hear their whinge. That's all. And maybe some people still liked them. The former Spotify employee says it was challenging to engage Harry. Okay. And a person who interviewed for a job with the couple, oh, who's this? Says, I just felt like he kind of didn't want to be there doing that at this time. My expectation was charming receiving line, and it was clear he wasn't that person, at least that day. Okay. Well, he's got ups and downs, I guess. But that's funny that they've mentioned that. And at least in the context of a hiring manager, a person who worked on an event during Harry's book tour says he has the greatest manners I've ever seen, hands down. Like, I can't believe his knees are as supple as they are. He was getting up and down anytime somebody walked into a room. He was unflailingly kind and friendly to everyone. All right. Well, I mean, he's been brought up with manners. He just forgets his manners all the time when he's with Meghan. That's what's happened. During the interview, the potential employee, oh, this person is spilling the tea. They're lucky they didn't hire this person. Harry's attitude was either, well, why should I do this? Or why are we doing this? The interviewee says they wondered, didn't Spotify pay you a lot of money to do this? The person inside the couple's circle says he looks like the kind of guy who would, frankly, happily work for charities for the rest of his life and would be very happy if Meghan made all the money and he didn't need to. He doesn't want to live this life. We know that. On his self titled podcast, Bill Simmons described his own experience working with the Sussexes at Spotify, the effing grifters. That's the podcast we should have launched with them. That is legendary. That effing grifters. Simmons said, I have got to get drunk one night, please, please do, and tell the story of the Zoom I had with Harry to try and help him with a podcast idea. It's one of my best stories. F them, the grifters. Harry and Meghan became increasingly nervous about how their content would impact them. I don't think they're that worried. They just put it out. Marie says, I can say that they had really great ideas for shows, interesting pictures, interesting guests. but them as the deliverers, I get this, or either of them as the hosts of these more kind of edgy ideas would have been like, they would have had to move again. Okay. I think what, because they would piss the audience off and America would hate them. I think it's a combination of self censorship for good reason. Are you trying to say that they keep their mouth shut? And the corporate powers that be that run podcasting that don't know what that is to create valuable shows. In combination, those things make it really hard to make good stuff. The person who worked in media projects imitates the thought process behind any decision about the couple's projects. Well, he has a million things that he has to protect, and he has the book, and they have the documentary, and they don't want to make the Queen upset. Who's this? What are you kidding? All of that upset the Queen. And their public image, they don't care. Their public image is garbage. Their reputation's down the toilet. Who was that talking? That source says the idea for archetypes came from another employee, not Megan. Ooh, though the employee didn't own any of the intellectual property. Oh, you idiot. Our Swipes began production in January 2021. Though the former Spotify employee says the initial expectation was that Archwell would handle production for the series. Useless. The process took so long that Spotify's studio, Gimlet, was called in. How embarrassing. A source familiar with the production of R-Swipes says this required additional cost to and resources from Spotify, though a current Spotify employee refutes that the extra support was a burden. Of course, it's a burden. You're paying extra money because they're too slow and you've had to jump in and help them. How is that not a burden? Virtually the entire Gimlet team would be laid off in the year following R-Swipe's release, but employees blame mismanagement at Spotify rather than any individual project. The former Spotify source says R-Swipes was complicated as a podcast concept. You had to explain what the archetype was, then why the woman embodied it, but also how it wasn't true about her. Yeah, that's a really good point. That's why it was boring. Every episode was like, this is my friend who has been called that archetype, but is not that archetype. These archetypes, actually stereotypes, exactly, she just wanted to call it archetypes because it sounds like Archwell, included Diva, Mariah Carey, and Bimbo, Paris Hilton, and is it Eliza Schlesinger? As for those friends, oh, look, because they're not friends. Oh, this article's great. There was an expectation that Megan would be able to use her personal Rolodex to book the show because she makes it seem like she's got all the contacts, the way hosts like Simmons and the Pod Save America guys do. The person who worked in media projects says the assumption was Megan's going to be on the phone with the Pope tomorrow. No one cares about it. The former Spotify employee says, in addition to Taylor Swift, they who said hell no, they heard rumors that Beyonce and Megan the Stallion were asked to come on the show and declined. Smart move. Beyonce picked up on it. She was a bit slow, but she got there in the end. Other people who worked on the podcast also say they heard those names mentioned, though a source close to the situation says Megan the Stallion's team knew nothing about any request. Well, that doesn't say that Beyonce and Taylor did not decline, so I'll believe that they both declined. According to the source in media projects, Megan would. Oh, Megan is wanting to know who these people are. I'm telling you now. She's Googling. She's on the phone. Megan would agree to provocative ideas and then walk them back. Okay. In one episode, she wanted to actually say the word BITCH. I'm not going to say it just in case. Because as the source remembers Megan saying, you hear it all the time. It ended up with Megan calling it the B word. An episode titled SLUT, intended to center on how trans women's sexuality is used against them, was retitled Human Being by Megan and had to be completely reimagined, that just means re edited, re recorded, late in production. Every episode got more and more watered down and further away from actual conversation, the source says. It felt like very Women's and Gender Studies 101 taught in 2003. Well, she is stuck in 2003, isn't she? But that's interesting that she doesn't actually get it over the line. She says, she's going to do this and then she pulls it back. Though the Spotify contract has widely been reported as worth 20 million, two sources told Vanity Fair, two sources says such deals are generally not paid out in lump sums, of course. In other words, the couple would not likely have received the full amount without meeting benchmarks beyond making one 12 episode season of a podcast. Spotify does not comment on deal terms. We know they didn't reach their 20 mil. That's obvious. The issues extended into the actual workplace. Terry Wood, an executive vice president at Oprah Winfrey's Harpo Productions, was brought in to be what Meghan would later call her right hand when Swipes won a People's Choice Award. How did it win an award? In 2022. The source familiar with the production of Swipes describes Wood's anger, saying that she yelled at Spotify staffers when Meghan changed her mind about episodes. Woods Wood, Woods did not respond to the request for comment. The source familiar with the production, Woods' anger. Okay, anyway, there's a name. We know that they've spoken. The source who worked in media projects says Meghan's own relationships with employees tended to follow a familiar pattern. Oh, this is interesting. She would be warm and effusive at the beginning, yeah, love bombing, engendering an atmosphere of professional camaraderie. When something went poorly, which is when your real character shows, often due to Meghan and Harry's own demands, such as a teaser for Our Swipes being released 5 months before the show premiered and before there was any tape to promote. Wow, that sounds extremely familiar, like American Riviera Orchard releasing something before it is ready. Meghan would become cold and withholding toward the person she perceived to be responsible. Of course, she does. This is so funny. The source says it was really, really, really awful. Who is this? Very painful because she's constantly playing checkers. I'm not even going to say chess. But she's just very aware of where everybody is on her board. Oh my gosh, this is what we all know. And we're hearing it from a source. And when you are not in, you are to be thrown to the wolves. Oh, what a great analogy at any given moment. Oh, that is great. I love this person. In practice, they say that manifested as undermining. Wow, it's talking behind your back, it's gnawing at your sense of self. Oh my goodness, is this person a female? Is this person female? Really like Mean Girls teenager. Oh, wow. Marie had a different experience with Megan. She's just a lovely, genuine person, she said. See, these guys are just trying to just soften the blow at the end, but that was pretty scathing. I'm going to read that again later. That was great. The person who worked in media projects read stories in the tabloids about Meghan bullying palace aides and couldn't imagine such behaviour actually happened. After working with her, though, oh, here we go, this person realized, oh, any given Tuesday, this happened. Oh my gosh. While it beggars belief that Meghan actually shouted at a palace aide, as has been reported, no, I believe it. A person who interacted with her professionally says, you can be yelled at even if somebody doesn't raise their voice. It's funny that people don't differentiate between the energy of being yelled at and literally someone screaming at you. Yeah, exactly. And she feels like she's not screaming, but she's being, what did she say? She's being direct and clear or something. That's still being rude. And that's yelling. Two sources say a colleague with ties to Arswipes took a leave of absence after working on 3 episodes, then left Gimlet altogether. Where are these people? Several others described taking extended breaks. Oh my gosh, what a terrible workplace. From work to escape scrutiny, exiting their job, or undergoing long term therapy. after working with Meghan. Oh my gosh, she put people in therapy. Oh my lord. The person who interacted professionally with her says, I think if Meghan acknowledged her own shortcomings, not going to happen, or personal contributions to situations, oh, you mean accountability, rather than staying trapped in a victim narrative, her perception might be better. Oh, wow. Wow, they added with the soggy laugh of a plebe rendering judgment on the Duchess of Sussex. But who am I to criticise Meghan Markle? She's doing great. Oh, I love that. That is great. This is hilarious. It's hard to imagine how someone who seems so earnestly intent on being kind and engaging in world improving, if also brand building activities, could wind up engaging in revanchism with people so below her in status. A partial answer might be found in an episode of Arsewives in which Meghan interviews Mindy Kaling, who assumed Meghan was popular as a child. Oh, we don't need to hear this again. While attending Immaculate Heart Catholic School in Los Angeles, Megan tells Kaling, I never had anyone to sit with at lunch. I was always a bit of a loner and really shy and didn't know where I fit in. And so I was like, okay, well, then I'll become the president of the multicultural club and the president of sophomore class and the president of this and French club. And by doing that, I had meetings at lunchtime. So I didn't have to worry about who I would sit with or what I would do because I was always so busy. It brings to mind Swift's Mastermind lyrics. No one wanted to play with me as a little kid, so I've been scheming like a criminal ever since to make them love me and make it seem effortless. They could have cut that whole bit out. That wasn't interesting. In other words, Megan was a good person. Calm down. Trying to do good things in spite of and at times because of unkind people. The person familiar with the production of Arswipe says at least one employee who had a terrible experience got a handwritten in calligraphy thank you note and gift from Megan. Well, that just shows she knew she was rude and awful. Is it any surprise that a sense of victimhood and righteousness could continue to exist in a person who had been treated so horribly by the press and her husband's family? That's not maybe not true though. Not to mention those little B words at Immaculate Heart. That people whom Meghan may have perceived as enemies or interlopers, members of the loathsome media, who she loves, or insiders at the palace, or people who actually knew how to make a podcast, or her pitiable father and half sister selling her secrets and history to tabloids for cash, might have seemed more powerful than her in some way, despite her immense fame and wealth and privilege. And then whatever happened to them, well, they shouldn't have gotten between Meghan and her good work. As Harry knows, trauma can warp your perspective. Oh, look at this picture. So there's a few photos in this article. We don't need to see that for too much longer. Look at her with her face to the camera. Same photo she did with Trevor, isn't it? Anyway, some more photos they've included. That one at the bottom is actually their driveway in their Montecito mansion. And you can see that that does look like that Christmas card that we've just all seen with the kids in the back of their heads and Photoshop galore. So I guess that was at their home. Okay, now we're going to get to Harry. Harry's going to get ripped. Spare, Harry's best selling and beautifully written by J.R. Moehringer memoir, chronicles the prince's lonely former life with MRI level self examination, if not always top tier self awareness. Harry recounts an anti poaching trip to Namibia in which he insisted on sleeping outdoors despite his team telling him, we just saw proof that there are lions out here, boss. Harry claims everyone with him, including a bodyguard, local police, a ranger, and Namibian soldiers who were all there to protect him, went to bed in their tents or trucks rather than staying up to ensure he wasn't eaten by lions in the night. Unfortunately, he wasn't. The book also discusses in great detail Harry's issues with his family, opening on his reunion with now King Charles and Prince William, who, in addition to beloved brother, Harry describes as his arch nemesis, oh, what an idiot, possessing a familiar scowl and alarming baldness. Yeah, we know that. It doesn't get more flattering for Willie in the ensuing pages. At an event in 2023, someone privately asked Harry if he had heard from his family. He said he hadn't. This person asked Harry if he thought he was going to, and he said he hoped so. That's sort of what made me sad, the source said. His hopes seemed very genuine, and I was just kind of like, oh no. The source believed Harry hadn't absorbed the gravity of what it would mean to sell copies of millions of copies of a tell all book about a famously insular and circumspect family in the middle of a year long public relations crisis. The power of the written word and the power of the narrative, this person went on. I don't know if that's something he understood while he was doing it. What? How? It's not possible. Of course he understood, unless Megan told him it wasn't going to do any damage. That's a weird thing to say. In addition to painting Dorian Gray style personal portraits of family members in spare, Harry accuses the officers of his brother, father, and Camilla of briefing the press against Harry to distract from or trade away negative stories about themselves. Harry sued the publishers of the Daily Mail for libel for publishing an article in 2022 that said Harry tried to conceal his efforts to obtain taxpayer funded security, but the prince ultimately dropped the case and a judge ordered Harry to pay the Mail's publisher nearly £50,000 in legal fees. Oh, God, his legal problems are just boring. Harry is currently more involved in two other lawsuits that further alienate him from his home country and its tabloid media. He is moving forward with an invasion of privacy case against Sun Publisher News Group newspapers, which follows a settlement from Mirror Group newspapers for a phone hacking charge. Which didn't William get hacked more than Harry? But more isolating is the suit regarding state police protection. This is pushing shit uphill, by the way, for him and his family when they are in Britain, which they'll never all go anyway, which Harry, Meghan, and their older child Archie were stripped of when they left the UK in 2020. There are clear dangers to the family's safety. A person who worked closely with them says strangers take lifts to their house. Is that like Uber? And in 2023, the couple was involved in what a spokesperson called a near catastrophic car chase with paparazzi. Yeah, I've seen that. It's like a sloth with racing a snail or something. There were no injuries, collisions, or charges filed. Yeah, because it was BS. The person who interacted with Harry in 2023 also described a very scary paparazzi situation after employees at the hotel where Harry was staying allegedly tipped off photographers to his presence. Nevertheless, the High Court in London twice struck down the UK lawsuit. Harry is appealing. Good on him. Whatever. Good luck to you wasting time and money. According to someone familiar with Harry and Meghan, the legal case was at least part of the reason Harry didn't attend the June wedding of his longtime friend Hugh Grosvenor, Duke of Westminster. The source says if he'd come back for the event, it could have imperiled his claim that he needs government funded protection. Of course, because it's BS, but he couldn't go, so look what he sacrificed. Well, you were here in May and you were absolutely fine attending a wedding, the source says, imagining the response in court. So I'm sure a lot of the decisions about time in the UK are also being made based on how it looks for the case. And by the way, he's heading to the UK soon for another case, one of these cases. I don't know which one. I've lost count. But he's traveling there. So imagine all the money he's spending, and emissions just to go back and forth all the time. I thought he was into the environment. Yeah, no. Of course, there's also Willie. The source says that after invitations went out, Harry and Grosvenor had a conversation. Vanity Fair has also reported that Harry may not have formally been invited. The source says they discussed Harry's discomfort at the thought of being remote in the familial claustrophobia of Windsor turf. It suddenly becomes all about the brothers and did they look at each other and how close were they stood, the source says. which is exactly what happened at Charles's 2023 coronation and their uncle Lord Robert Fellowes' funeral in August. You can imagine the Zapruder footage level scrutiny by the press. The source says they miss Harry for at least the person they pretended he was in their papers. I think with a lot of the reporters, they like the version of Harry that they helped create, they say, describing how they would reminisce about when Harry would come over and pal around with them. Yes, but he also, when you left, would make fun of you all behind your backs and hated you guys. And this is an interesting sentence. They are so hot for each other. I think I'm going to be sick. According to a person who worked closely with the couple, like, you know how you meet those couples where you're like, the way they're looking at each other, I should probably not be here right now. Yeah, but is that like at the start of the relationship? But who is the real Harry now that he's been released from the zoo in which he was raised? That's a jab. By one telling, the person who interacted professionally with Meghan says he's socially marooned beyond his nuclear family. She was upfront about the fact that Harry hadn't made many friends yet. Yes, she loves that. She doesn't want him to have a social circle. The source says of Meghan's assessment of her husband. And what an awful thing to say about your husband, too. The person who worked in media projects with the couple also has a guess. I think Harry doesn't know what he wants because he grew up in a fishbowl, and so he doesn't know what real life really is, they say. I think he probably wants to be left alone. Yeah, well, he's with the wrong person, and be able to go kiss babies every once in a while, but not have to worry about money. I don't think he wants to be famous the way Meghan wants to be famous. Well, we know that. That's obvious. Harry and Meghan are, in the estimation of everyone Vanity Fair spoke with, deeply in love. They are so hot for each other. Really? Really? Not anymore. These are old interviews, aren't they? Like, you know how you meet those couples, blah, blah, blah. When Harry is solo, the person inside the couple circle says he's very personable. He's very at ease with people, quite like Diana. He just has this way of like making people feel very comfortable. When he's in public with Meghan, there is a circus, the source says, because everyone hates her. He's so protective of her, is he? Because people are so nasty to her. It's a whole different experience. Harry has explicitly drawn parallels between his wife and his late mother. Yeah, we know. My deepest fear is history repeating itself, Harry wrote in a 2019 statement about Meghan's treatment by the press. It's nothing like it, by the way. I've seen what happens when someone I love is commoditized to the point that they are no longer treated or seen as a real person. I lost my mother, and now I watch my wife falling victim to the same powerful forces. She brings it on herself, buddy. While Harry is vigilant about Meghan's safety, even though Meghan just calls the press herself and does it to herself, the person who worked closely with them says Meghan's role in this dynamic is caregiver and facilitator, mummy. She's the one who makes things happen. Pre Meghan, says the person familiar with the couple, Harry would just pop in to the palace press office, ask a few questions, and leave like he was a little bored but also very keen. It's almost impossible to imagine today's Harry willingly engaging with the media in search of purpose. The source who worked with Harry and Meghan says, I can picture him meeting Meghan and being just a deep breath of, like, I've been so exhausted and you make everything so easy. Yeah, and this is why it all went pear shaped because he was just vulnerable and she was just overbearing. I don't want to be like, oh, it's an Oedipus thing or whatever, but it kind of feels like she's reparenting him in a way. Well, you basically said it. It's easy to imagine a folie à deux, sorry, I can't say that, emerging from the singular blend of circumstances, a need to believe in each other, and the primacy of their relationship in the face of shared trauma and the real obstacles they encountered as they idealistically endeavored to break the wheel, while occasionally breaking the spirits of those tasked with executing their shared vision or breaking people's spirits. You don't tell them no. Oh, the person who worked in the couple's media project said. I left because I couldn't live with myself anymore. Oh my gosh, because they had to say yes to them all the time and they just couldn't deal with it. Oh my gosh, that's a good nugget. This intra-couple permission to stray from other people's realities may have led to some of the points of contention that people bring up when questioning Meghan's fidelity to emotional truth above literal truth. Her assertions that she neither Googled Prince Harry nor looked up the etiquette for meeting the Queen of England and didn't know she was supposed to curtsy until the ride over. Yeah, no one believes that. No one. And she just plays the dumb card. Oh, I'm American. We don't know. Shut up. Everyone knows. Megan is the type of woman who would check a menu out online before going to a restaurant to pick what she was going to eat. Exactly. Exactly. We know this, says Tom Fitzgerald, a fashion and cultural commentator who, with his husband Lorenzo Marks, comprised the brand Tom and Lorenzo. A resident of Montecito who ate lunch in the same restaurant as Megan said the server told her Megan had called ahead to ask about the privacy of the seating arrangements. She knows exactly what's going on around her. We know this. So the idea that she didn't know she was supposed to curtsy for the Queen, I just didn't find it particularly believable because based on everything she ever told us about herself, I cannot imagine that she went into meeting the royal family completely cold with no research whatsoever. Hear, hear, exactly. Fitzgerald also points to Meghan's repeated claims that she was forced to wear neutrals during her time in the palace in order to avoid upstaging or competing with Queen Elizabeth and other senior members of the family, noting that Meghan's wardrobe is now primarily composed of that palette. Beige. A Royals reporter believes that Meghan assumed her husband's vision rather than researching the job of being a royal, and the reporter has a more positive view of the folly. Oh, that's such a good idea for a successful marriage. It's a terrible idea for a job, but if you're joining this big network of people, you've got to see this through your husband's eyes, be your husband's advocate in it. And it's no wonder this relationship works, does it? Even if the family's business part of it fell apart. Well, that's a big part of it, guys. It's the royal part. It's a charming, if Freudian dynamic, a husband and wife who organize each other's lives and well being, who flirt and hold hands. They're not flirting anymore, you guys. They're not even holding hands. And want the world to be a better place, even to the exclusion of evidence that suggests their well meaning way of disrupting institutions is not always the best approach. That instinct to do things as Harry and Meghan believe they should be done rather than how they are typically accomplished was exacerbated during their time as senior working royals. 72 days. It led to conflict with Harry's family and palace staff, the reporter says, because Harry doesn't understand himself. He doesn't understand a monarchy. His family didn't do a very good job of inculcating him into the family legend, partially because he didn't care, partially because he was just kind of abandoned at the age of 8. Okay. He has no clue what's going on. That's what that says. We know that. However, the couple's regal charisma, while effortlessly changing the world, has been showcased to great effect on their most successful reimagining of monarchy by Markle, Harry and Meghan's common royal tours to Nigeria in May and Colombia in August. Invictus Games for sure is a very clear product, a brand, an organization that Harry spent a decade building, which is why, in many ways, I think the Nigerian tour worked, says Elaine Liu, the celebrity commentator behind Lanely Gossip. When they appear together in non invictus circumstances, that's when people are like, I'm not really clear what they're representing here, of course. That's contrasted with an actual royal tour where individuals are acting on behalf of the sovereignty and its various causes, or as Lou points to, an independent actor like Angelina Jolie, who she used to want to emulate, who went to places like Afghanistan and Ukraine with the backing of the United Nations Refugee Agency. In September, Harry appeared in front of a small group. Oh, yeah. What an idiot. With a picture of his wedding photo in the background. Small group at the United Nations in New York to highlight issues in Lesotho, one of the countries where his charity centre Bale focuses its efforts. Louise says she could leverage the history and the reputation of a very established philanthropic organisation to say, hey, I'm lending my celebrity to this cause, and in raising this awareness, we can actually attach the effect or the results to the UNHCR. With the gauzier parts of Meghan and Harry's tours, what Harry called the reasons to meet the people at the heart of our work, Louise says the question is, how are they helping anyone? And how is Archwell distinguishing itself from any other foundation? It doesn't. There's nothing to do with anything. After raising more than 13 mil in 2021, according to public disclosure forms, the charity grossed 2 mil in 2022. The nonprofit has not yet shared its 2023 or 2024 revenue. Well, we have seen 2023, haven't we? Yes, it has them as spokespeople, but they haven't had yet, because it's still quite new, a track record of being able to make philanthropic achievements independent of the palace. Yep, exactly. They can't do anything without the palace. They're useless. How it's the backbone of who they are. You take the backbone out, they're full to jelly. How complete that independence is another point that rankles people about Meghan and Harry. If you still use a title, here we go, and descend upon Commonwealth or developing countries, because they always go to Commonwealth countries, and let little girls curtsy to you, as one did to Meghan in Colombia, it doesn't seem like you've totally left the monarchy behind. Exactly. It also doesn't give you a lot of room to critique it. Yes, yes, you wish you were royal. We know this. The Netflix docuseries Harry and Meghan litigates in painstaking detail Harry and Meghan's mental health declines, as she was bullied at the very least in sight of, and by many accounts at the behest of, an imperialist establishment. Yet this doesn't seem to sour them to the idea of participating in a hereditary bloodline. In the doc, Harry says that during their last week as working senior royals, the couple, ruining the circumstances of their exit, kept telling each other, we would have carried on doing this for the rest of our lives. No, that's not what Meghan was thinking. When Charles ascended the throne after Elizabeth's death, the couple's children became Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, exactly as they were always going to, but you just pretended that they weren't going to get those titles and you told Oprah and the world. Some people familiar with the production of Asswipes and Harry's book tour said they were instructed to address the couple as sir or ma'am. Yes, we heard this, though the request was dropped in one instance after the person pushed back. Oh, other people say they were encouraged by Harry and Meghan to call them by their first names. I think ultimately it's cachet and sets them apart as different and special. The source familiar with the couple says, in the US, success, money, fame, all that stuff exists out here, but a blood title, it's few and far between. Many members of Meghan's current inner circle, which includes Kayleen, Figueres' wife, socialite Delphina Blacker, Tracy Robbins, the fashion designer and wife of Paramount Global co-CEO Brian Robbins, and parenting influencer and activist Kelly McKees-Ifen, are basically living by the rules of American aristocracy. According to Lou, they stay behind the scenes, wield their power quietly, and look down on people who are very public, too thirsty. Yeah, Meghan's thirsty. On the other hand, all of the aforementioned are slated to appear on With Love Meghan because they just want to be on TV. They want to up their Insta followers. A Black Studies scholar who is also an African American woman noted the way racism is discussed in Harry and Meghan as the one off actions of Princess Michael of Kent wearing a blackamoor brooch to a brunch where Meghan was present, or the distant colonialism that still furnishes the duchies of Cornwall and Lancaster and the jewels in the family's tiaras, or Harry saying that the royal family merely had unconscious bias. I can't with that word. It's a very common discursive move, the scholar says, locating racism in individual bad actors or locating it in the past. Queen Elizabeth becomes a kindly grandmother. She's in the back of a car, her carriage under a blanket. There's that story, which is really kind of sweet, that Meghan tells in the documentary. But it can't connect that with the larger ideology of England and thereby Queen Elizabeth being like, we are the natural rulers of the world, and that includes the segregation of people of colour. The cultural critic says this framing makes it so Meghan and Harry can tell the story of being victims of the system, but it's all about them being disenfranchised from whiteness and white privilege. The couple repeatedly expressed frustration in Harry and Meghan that Meghan wasn't tapped as an asset. Oh God, for upholding the Crown's international interests in an era when Prince William was tasked with expressing profound sorrow for the appalling atrocity of slavery during a tour to Jamaica. As historian David Olusoga says in the docuseries, part of what makes the inability of the palace to defend Meghan an even bigger disaster is that the centre of the argument for the monarchy in this country is the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth is 2.5 billion, mainly black and brown people. Here was a woman who looked like most of the people in the Commonwealth. Harry, but she's not the right person. It doesn't matter about the colour of her skin or her background. Harry speaks shortly after and says the palace and its denizens have already missed an enormous opportunity with my wife, yeah, because she's told you that they have, so you're just saying whatever she wants you to say, and how far that would go globally. No, she's awful. She can't do it. You don't want her as the mouthpiece for the monarchy. God, no. The source familiar with the couple says it's important to note that Harry isn't an anti monarchist. It's hard to say, really. He puts them down all the time. He just didn't like the way things were run within the institution. He says his issues are about people and behaviours, not tradition. Okay. The source, who is also a person of colour, defends Meghan's right to want a piece of the empire for herself. Really? If I was in the same position and I was treated the way I was by the institution, it wouldn't stop me from still feeling that that title is mine and deserved. Really? Wouldn't you want to have nothing to do with it? If anything, it would feel like you're giving in to the pressure to exclude you in the first place. So actually, it would probably make me want it even more. Damn well, I'm going to slap it on my kids' names too. Well, that's only one person's opinion. Forget that. Here's some other photos they've put in. Oh, there's Ellen, Oprah, Portia, Megan getting her face into Invictus. Nothing to do with her. Of course, she's facing the camera there as well. There they are in Colombia. Harry wasn't having a good day there. Anyway, Natalie Portman, Jeff Bridges, John Carradine, Kirk and Michael Douglas, Jonathan Winters, Gwyneth Paltrow, Adam Levine, Jimmy Connors, T.C. Boyle, Leonardo DiCaprio, what is this? Neil Young and Daryl Hannah, Michael Keaton, and of course Oprah are among the many celebrities who have peacefully coexisted with other locals in Montecito. That was all about Montecito, an unincorporated part of Santa Barbara County. When a Montecitian's labradoodle ran up to a child and licked their ice cream, the kid's father, Kardashian affiliate Scott Disick, ran up to the pet owner with concern, not because he was upset that the cone was ruined, but to reassure the person that the ice cream was vegan and wouldn't upset the dog's stomach. Why are we reading this? Katy Perry has, per usual, had some legal real estate issues, and Ellen DeGeneres has become unpopular for her behavior. Sorry, for her immaculate, usually off market flips that have supposedly driven house prices up. Is that okay? No one likes her, we know that. I think everyone, including the A-list celebs, would prefer that it's not on the map like it is. Well, she was about to brand American Riviera Orchard Montecito everywhere. The Montecitian. Montecitian, what a word. It's a place where no one would ever bother a famous person beyond saying hello at the coffee shop as they would to anyone else. One resident says Montecito's defining characteristics are quiet and neighborliness. The prince and the starlet, as the Montecitan calls her, have become local villains, according to several people, oh my goodness, who spoke with Vanity Fair. They attribute the increase in housing prices to them as much as DeGeneres and point to out of towners coming in, driving too fast. This just sounds like an old fogey community having a whinge, and taking up all the street parking by local trails, like the one Meghan was photographed hiking on while Harry was in the UK for Charles's coronation. Yeah, we all saw those pictures. You can't just walk into Lucky's for dinner anymore. Yeah, they've ruined it. While the Montecitan says neither he nor his friends have ever met the couple, two others mentioned Harry biking in town. They popped up in the video for DeGeneres and Portia de Rossi's vow renewal. That was ages ago. And the Montecitan saw photos of Harry playing polo at a nearby fields. He's probably always there, which will also be featured in Harry's Netflix docuseries. Meghan's Netflix project was filmed at a house near theirs. American Riviera Orchard, oh dear, which on Instagram has a logo styled with a royal looking crest. Yeah, because she's tried to make it look royal, to faux royal style. And written in Meghan's perfect calligraphy, what? And is known internally as ARO, because no one can be bothered to say the whole thing, is located in Montecito. Though an 1898 book published by the Southern Pacific Company Rail Line states the Montecito is known as the American Riviera, today that honor is understood to belong to Santa Barbara. No one Vanity Fair spoke with had ever heard Montecito referred to by the name. It doesn't matter, you still can't use it. It's such a kind of hucksterism, one resident says. It's just finding every way she can to monetize something. Yep, exactly. All she wants is money. And in doing so, bringing more attention to the place where the Sussexes say they want to be left alone. Exactly the hypocrisy, right? I still think they're the most entitled, disingenuous people on the planet, the Montecitan says. The Montecitan. They moved away from England to get away from the scrutiny of the press, and all they do is try and get in the press in the United States. Lou says the most common criticism she hears about Meghan, though she notes it's true of Harry as well, is you can't cherry pick the good parts and leave out the bad parts of fame. However, she points out all celebrities do this. Don't take photos of me. Oh, but here, let me step out conveniently and get papped. Only give me good reviews of my movie or my album. And if you don't like my music, I'm going to post on Instagram that you're so shitty as a reviewer. Whether American Riviera Orchard will be well received or received at all, no, it won't be, at least in name, remains to be seen. On August 31, the US Patent and Trademark Office rejected the trademark application. Registration is refused because the applied for mark is primarily geographically descriptive, which we all knew. The response read, in other words, you can't claim a place. You should have done your research, honey. Tell that to Queen Victoria. Okay, whatever. The same day, according to the New York Post, the office reportedly received a complaint from storied pair purveyor Harry and David regarding the similarity in name to its Royal Riviera line. Yeah, it's got some pears that are called Royal Riviera pears. They're like $8 each. I'm sure, that's overpriced, but whatever. Good on him for complaining. As far as the substance of the brand, Louis says Meghan's first lifestyle effort, the TIG, was popular in Louis' circle in Toronto while Meghan was filming Suits there. However, American Riviera Orchard is giving 2014. It's not giving 2024. Oh my gosh, I love that. Fame arrests you at the moment it arrives. And she's stuck in the past. And I wonder if that is your health and wellness lifestyle version of that, where she had to suspend the tick and quit it the moment that she became Harry's girlfriend, then fiance, then his wife. American Riviera Orchard is maybe picking up from where the tick left off. Yeah, of course it is, 100%. It's the tick 2.0. The source familiar with the couple says, I think there's one thing that no one could take away from Meghan is how hard she works. Oh, what? How much effort goes into everything that she does. This is just trying to balance the article. Ultimately, that's all she needs. And I think that's why American Riviera Orchard probably will be a massive success. No, it's not going to be. This is just a funny bit. This is just adding some humor. Even if in 2 years' time it doesn't exist anymore, 2 years' time, how about 1 month? And she's on to the next. Well, she's already on to the next. It will have that moment. There'll be no way that you can say it wasn't successful. I'll be able to say it wasn't successful. A few years ago, a rumor began circulating around the book world about another prospective project for Meghan. This story, which a person with knowledge confirms the broad details of, was that Meghan's team had a conversation with a publishing house to gauge interest in the idea for a potential book. Okay. The concept, for which there was no written or formal proposal, was post divorce. Yeah, here we go. We know she's going to write a book. That means that there is a divorce on the cards. Why would you be speaking about it? Not a general book on life after marital dissolution or one about Meghan's past experience. She was married to producer Travel Anguston, who dodged a bullet. This book, the notion of a book, because she's just being real blasé, might center on a post Harry divorce. Oh, what does Harry think about this? He's just said, oh, we're not getting divorced. Everyone thinks we've been divorced 10, 12 times. I'm like, what? What about when he reads this? She's been talking behind his back. Oh my gosh, I love this. Not that there was actually one in the works. Oh, yeah, just a hypothetical. Just if this a priori divorce ever came to be, would this publisher theoretically be interested in a book that took place in its aftermath? I'd say yes to that. Another source with knowledge says if that's true to any degree, she would have been approached and not vice versa. What do you mean? No offer was ever made and no manuscript was produced. After all, there was no divorce. Oh, watch this space, especially after this article. The source familiar with the couple says Meghan's metabolism for campaigns that she can move on from, archetypes, the ephemeral 40 by 40 mentorship program that never did anything, the forthcoming lifestyle line and show, the wisp of a possible book about a divorce that might never happen, are part of why she's better suited to celebrity outside the palace. The royals don't work like that, the source says. How many years has Kate been talking about early childhood development? Like 11 now? 12? We still haven't really seen anything. What? Princess Catherine launched Shaping Us, a campaign focused on increasing public understanding of the crucial importance of the first 5 years of a child's life. What is this person talking about? She's done nothing. What are you talking about? That's a jab. In that time, Meghan has gone from star of a syndicated cable series to paradigm changing princess. Please don't call her a princess. To her husband's conduit out of royal life, to the founder of a hybrid charity Hollywood startup cross bank account. She has earned as much faith in her own force of will as a sovereign might have from believing that they were anointed by God to lead. As for what she'll do with that power, look at what it means for her to make the world a better place, which she and Harry genuinely seem to want to do. I don't believe that. Jamil, who I don't think is friends with her anymore. Chrissy Teigen, never was friends with her. And I'm not saying his name. Let's just skip that one. We know the books he wrote. Garbage. Have all publicly discussed Meghan unexpectedly reaching out during difficult times in their lives and offering solace. Why would they tell us that? It's BS, even though they weren't close, because she wants to be friends, and that's called social climbing. Louis says it is something Meghan took from her royal years, her 72 days, just as Harry has taken his impeccable manners, which he always forgets, and the ability to patronize the F out of a charity. That's what they do, Louis says. They bless you with their royalness, and that's the gift. It's not like Princess Diana was ever best friends with all the people that she visited in the hospital. Oh, we don't think she was, you idiot. She's just being normal about it, and she's being um, honest and authentic is the word. I think that when they don't No, I think that they don't know what change the world means, says the person who worked in media projects. I love this person. They want to be people who are looked at as people who want to change the world. Maybe that's why Meghan has continued on Nick News, in the TIG, on panels, on Ask Wipes in Colombia in August to bring up the story of writing a letter. Oh, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to read anything about that. Um, but Procter and Gamble declined many requests from Vanity Fair to confirm that Meghan was the impetus for the switch, because she wasn't. And why would they want to talk about it? And in 2021, the company partnered with Archwell with the goal of elevating, she loves to elevate, sprig of mint, the voices of adolescent girls to ensure their point of view and lived experience is heard at the tables where decisions are made. Whether or not Meghan's letter is what prompted the change, absolutely 100% not. The fact that more than 30 years later she continues to speak up about having spoken up suggests it's the kind of mission she aspires to. Yeah, of course it is, but she can't achieve it. Marie, who has worked with many celebrities, says of the Sussexes' aspirations, I think it's actually better than where most people start out. No, that means nothing. She's full of herself, that's all that means. To point out the modesty of that world bettering feels like contributing to the essential problem of Harry and Meghan. No matter what they do, they just can't win because they're awful. Simple. If I guess you don't count the overwhelming portion of their beautiful lives that exist outside of Daily Mail headlines. Yeah, I'm sure they've got a personal life. I'm sure there's lots of issues though. It's all bleeding into their personal life, let's be honest. If Harry's burden is the soft oppression of no expectations, Meghan's might be the opposite, the betrayal of not living up to an unachievable ideal. I think the whole world was waiting for her to be that person, and then she never jumped because she was never that person, is exactly what happened there. We thought she was someone she wasn't. Diana walked amongst landmines. Meghan couldn't even say the words. Oh, wow. This story has been updated. I can't figure out what was updated, what was changed. I couldn't see any archives. Anyway, thank you guys for working through that article with me. Some very interesting information. So, Megan has been talking to publishers about a divorce. What? Yeah, that's shocking. Let's see what Harry thinks about that. Yeah, maybe all her dreams can come true. She can write that book now, maybe. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. And yeah, I'll keep these coming. Have a good one. Bye.